Now, here's an unlikely pairing for you, a pub landlord and an historian. But a shared passion for World War II brought these two together. Let's take a look.
Achtung, Achtung, hello and welcome to We Have Ways of Making You Talk, the military history podcast programme with me, Al Murray.
And me, James Holland.
Now, I'm a comedian who likes a bit of history, and James is a historian. Well, he's done quite a lot of telly, actually. And what we like...
Not very funny.
Well, no, I didn't want to go there.
They intro themselves, but Al Murray, otherwise known as the pub landlord, and James Holland both join me now. Welcome to you both. So listen, you've got the podcast,
yes,
haven't you already? You've now got a book. Tell us more.
Well, yes, we've written a book together, which is a first for both of us, about the end of the Second World War. So it's called Victory 45, and it's about the sort of the surrenders in Europe and then in Japan that marked the end of the Second World War.
And it's 12 chapters, isn't it? And it's told, you say there's 8 surrenders, 6 in Europe, 2 in Japan. It's about from the perspective of servicemen and women, but also those who actually negotiated the surrenders. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, it is, and actually there's a couple of chapters about VE Day itself, which was the one day where there wasn't actually a surrender. Because the first big surrender, the unconditional surrender of all German forces took place in the early hours of the 7th of May. Yeah. Then Stalin didn't want to announce it until 1 minute past midnight on the 9th of May. Then the Germans broadcast it. So the cat was out of the bag, and there was a journalist for AP News called Ed Kennedy who spilt the beans. And suddenly everyone was partying.
Pesky journalists.
I know. Everyone was partying, and so trying to keep a lid on it seemed impossible. So President Truman and Churchill both agreed that the next day, the 8th of May, would be victory in Europe.
Well, I think this is, we'll see the scenes there. I mean, none of us were alive, OK, but we've got parents, grandparents from London as well who would have remembered what that feeling was like.
Well, it was, and it was a combination of feelings. So it was enormous relief that the war in Europe was over and that London could turn the lights on again and that people could celebrate.
A weather forecast.
And you were allowed a weather forecast. There'd been no weather forecast for the whole of the war, and they were finally allowed a weather forecast. And they got it wrong, but there we are. but there's also this feeling of a sort of, not trepidation, but a feeling that there's unfinished business. Because the war in Japan was yet to run its course, and we look at it now, and it's the 3 months between the 2 surrenders. But they had no idea. They had no idea what was around the corner. So
no one knew there was going to be an atomic bomb was going to be ready. No one knew whether they were going to drop it or not. Because there's one thing detating it, there's another thing actually delivering it to the target. There's another one, then actually agreeing that you're going to use something quite so world-changing.
Goodness me. Given your combined passion and what you do the podcast, and now you've written the book. And when you see there was one poll this week that said that nearly 4 in 10 Brits, now including 18 to 24-year-olds, are 2/3 who don't actually know what happened on VE Day.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm in two minds about this because I'm really interested in it, and I think there's lots to learn from it. But there's a little bit of me that thinks if young people aren't fussed about this, that's kind of nice.
But shouldn't they be fussed about it?
Well, I don't know, because I mean, we talk about this an awful lot about remembrance, because after all, I wouldn't want an 18-year-old going, oh my goodness, what happens if geopolitics goes wrong and I end up having to join the army? You want them having fun. Yeah. You want them doing what I did when I was 19, not having a care of the world and crashing my moped, so to speak.
Well, I've got to say, I didn't know anything about it when I was that age.
Yeah.
I mean, I really, really didn't. I didn't come to it until 1995 when I was 25 or 24 still. And, that was the 50th anniversary. That was the first time it kind of really on my radar. I think when you're a young person, you're kind of, you're only looking in front of your nose and what's immediately around you. The thing about history is people come to it a little bit later. Yeah. It's the one subject at school that they give up at 14 or 16 or whenever they give up. And then they come back to. And I think that's because as you get older, your perspectives broaden a little bit.
You say that as you get older, but Donald Trump this week, he's the president of the United States of America. He said that the emphasis should be taken off the Europe part when it comes to the end of the war.
Well, his knowledge of history, of course, is immense, and we all know how well we should.
Yes, one defers to the judgment of the president, of course, on this one. I mean, the thing is there's still there was this feeling that the war with Japan was yet to be fought, and there's VJ Day. But the Japanese government gives up on August the 15th, and they surrender officially on the 2nd of September, and we tend to forget about it. So maybe it's a timely reminder from President Trump that we ought to remember that a bit it more clearly. But, you know, I mean, then he tweeted about something else the next day, didn't he?
Yes, that is
Let's
the thing.
rebuild Alcatraz.
Is the book being released in the US?
Yes.
Yes, it
Well,
is,
there you go.
Yeah, we have an American release. So
And we're going to make sure he gets a copy.
We're going to send him a copy.
A signed copy. Listen, Al James, it's been absolutely lovely to meet you again,
Yes,
Al.
great to see you.
We'll see you the next time.
Yes,
Thank you very much.